Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Now I understand that you're celebrating, commemorating the 50th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada coming to Malaysia to preach. His lotus feet touching this wonderful land and blessing the devotees and the non-devotees, blessing everyone by his presence. So I'd just like to say a few words about our humble contribution to the preaching work in Malaysia. We know that Srila Prabhupada graced Malaysia with his presence in May, was it the 7th to the 9th in 1971. He did a tour of Malaysia, and a very successful tour. And then one or two devotees also tried to stay in Malaysia, but due to visa problems they weren't able to stay. So somehow or other, myself and my husband, Rama Sarana, is a Malaysian citizen, and we were living at Bhaktivedanta Manor at that time from 1976 until 79. We became initiated by Srila Prabhupada at that time, and we had a good training, 3 years at the Manor, attending all the morning programs, evening programs, learning all the different aspects of Bhakti Yoga. And Prabhupada'S Swami approached my husband, knowing he was a Malaysian citizen, because they wanted a devotee to be able to stay there and register the society so that something solid could grow there. Srila Prabhupada had gone around planting the seeds, but they needed someone to go there and water those seeds and see them sprout and see them grow. So it was at the end of 1979, the end of 1979 that we had the opportunity to go there, Ram Sharandas and myself. We went to India first, travelled round to many of the holy places, begging for mercy of the Lord so that we could be an instrument, a useful instrument in the Lord's hands. So then we were on the plane. I remember we were on the plane going to Malaysia, we were on the plane going to Malaysia at that time, and not just before we landed, feeling excitement and anticipation. And I remembered a prayer that Srila Prabhupada had written when he first arrived in USA in 1965. He first touched down in Boston, USA, and the captain showed him around the city. And while he was on Commonwealth Pier in Boston, he wrote a beautiful prayer to the Lord called Markain Bhagavat Dham. And so I had that prayer with me, and so just before we were approaching Malaysia, I recited that prayer to the Lord. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and it is for me, the most significant part, and was very important that in that right mood that we approached our service here in Malaysia. I'll just read a little something. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. And this next part is the part that I always remember very strongly. Oh Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladutta Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, 18th of September 1965. So here we can see the great humility of Srila Prabhupada, the wonderful qualities that he possesses, that he showed to the world in his compassion and preaching around the world. So somehow or other we also had that great opportunity to engage in his service, and it was in that mood that we entered Malaysia, feeling completely unqualified, no personal qualifications, definitely no personal qualifications. We were young. I think I was 20, well, I was probably 25 at the time, and my husband 5 years older. But we had no qualification to preach in Malaysia. The only qualification we had is we had firm, strong faith in Srila Prabhupada, and we wanted to do something to assist his mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And then as we arrived in Malaysia, as we placed our feet on the land of Malaysia, as we arrived at the airport, I could hear this chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It was really surprising. And what it was, there was a Swami on board the plane. I believe it was a Swami from the Divine Life Society. And some of his disciples had come there to meet him off the plane. But I saw that as a definite sign from Krishna, from Srila Prabhupada, that he was behind us, he was with us, he wanted us to go there and do this service. Hare Krishna. How we first came to Malaysia to preach Krishna consciousness on the order of Srila Prabhupada. First of all, we stayed in the home. We were invited to stay in the home of Ram Sharan's brother, Mohan, and his wife Vasanti, and their two very young children, Prem and Priya. They very kindly gave us shelter at their home. It was only a small place, an apartment in quite a congested area of Malaysia. It was in Sungai Way, I think it's called, Sungai Way, very congested area. But they were very gracious and they let us stay there. They welcomed us with open arms, so they gave us the first place to stay in Malaysia. And we just come from Bhaktivedanta Manor, so we were very fixed up in our Krishna consciousness, rising early in the morning, doing our prayers, doing our puja, doing our chanting, doing our japa, offering all our food, reading from the books of Srila Prabhupada. We simply followed the instructions. We followed the lifestyle that Srila Prabhupada had given us, and we saw that from doing that all success came. Simply by following the instructions, the order of Srila Prabhupada, all success was available. As I said before, we had no personal qualification, but we had a strong desire to serve Srila Prabhupada and to do something to enhance his mission in the world. So first of all, we stayed there, and young Prem, which is Ram Sharan Prabhu's nephew, he became very enamored. He became a vegetarian. He started chanting Manjapa beads. So we could see immediately the potency of just following this process of Krishna consciousness. So Ram Sham's family were very instrumental in helping us in those early days. His mother was living there at that time, Bhanumati. She was living in Malaysia, also a natural devotee of Lord Krishna, and was very pleased that her son had taken up this process of Krishna consciousness with great conviction. And anyway, she heard about a house for rent becoming available in Petaling Jaya, Old Town Petaling Jaya. So we went along, saw this end terrace house, a small little house, just up from the market in Old Town, PJ. And so we took that house for rent. And there we started practicing Krishna consciousness and doing what we could to preach Krishna consciousness. So again, we had set up an altar, Srila Prabhupada, Radha Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We made a nice altar. We'd have our morning program, Mangalarati, Guru Puja. We knew it was very important. This would give us a spiritual strength to practice Krishna consciousness. So we had a very good, strong morning program. Daily we'd have class, read from Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures that Srila Prabhupada had made available for us. And we started doing Sunday programs. Quite quickly we started Sunday programs, inviting people to come along and join us and hear about Krishna consciousness. So we found that, first of all, the local children were our first fortunate people to come along and take up Krishna consciousness. And they absolutely loved the Sunday program. We cook a nice feast, have a nice kirtan. Everyone, I can remember those children. They were so innocent and so pure. They were dancing and chanting and really loving that Krishna consciousness. It was good. They were happy days, yeah. And we used to go out in the evening. We got some books. I can't remember how, but somehow we probably took books with us, and then we ordered some more books. So we used to go out with a small set of books mainly into the Indian areas, because the Indian community would be more favourable and easily accessible to us for Krishna consciousness. So we'd go out with a little small set of books in the evenings, go door to door, and show our books, show Srila Prabhupada's books, explain what we're doing, little card, and then we'd invite people to come along for the Sunday program or to get in touch with us in any way they could. And slowly and surely, people started coming along to our programs and showing an interest in Krishna consciousness, a real definite interest in Krishna consciousness. And like I say, we simply followed the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us. We remembered our training from Bhaktivedanta Mana. We'd had a good training there in the basics of Krishna consciousness, and we tried to share that with others. We didn't try and add anything different. We just tried to give Krishna consciousness as it is. And we found that very quickly, this little place that we were renting just up the market in PJ Old Town, behind the Caltex garage, very soon it wasn't big enough for our Sunday programs. So we were on the lookout for bigger premises. At that time, Vrindavan, Chandra and Nandini, well, they weren't initiated then, Nalini Venugopal and, well, I think his name was Venugopal, had come along to our programs and quickly took up the process of Krishna consciousness. They were very enthusiastic early members. Anyway, so it wasn't too long before we heard about another house for rent, and that was also through the mercy of his mom, Bhanumati, and she found us another house to rent just a bit further up the road in Petaling Jaya. Anak Gasing, yeah, that's number 6 Anak Gasing, I think it was called. Bigger premises, nice compound, much nicer place to have established Krishna consciousness. And we stayed there for a number of years, and very quickly the congregation grew to some very, very steady members, some very helpful members, Leela Madhava and her husband, Ravi Lochan, later to be called Ravi Lochan, and Leela Madhava. Their family were very, very helpful and very instrumental in the early days of Krishna consciousness. And they used to go out with Ram Sharan on life membership programs, and took him to meet a lot of their friends and family who they thought would be interested in Krishna consciousness. Tyaga Chaitanya Prabhu, he was another, with his good wife. They were also early followers in those days. And slowly a few people came to join as well. We had one or two people living at the temple, assisting us in many ways. It was exciting times. We kept up the momentum of the preaching, going out door to door, and travelling to different areas, holding festivals, holding programs. Yeah.